My name is Maya. I'm 33 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado, though I started my first company in a converted garage in Phoenix when I was 25. I'm telling you this story because betrayal has a strange way of coming full circle. And sometimes karma doesn't strike like lightning. Sometimes it walks through your door holding a resume. My former business partner stole $418,000 from our company over 3 years. He destroyed a partnership I'd built from nothing. He lied to investors, falsified documents, and walked away clean while I rebuilt everything alone. 7 years later, he applied for a job at my new company. He didn't recognize my married name on the CEO line. But I recognized his the second I saw it. This is what happened next. But first, let me take you back to where it started. I met Derek in 2015. I was 25, working as a junior financial analyst at a mid-size consulting firm in Phoenix. Derek was 34, a senior account manager with a decade of client-facing experience and a confidence that filled every room he entered. We both hated our jobs. We both wanted to build something of our own. One night after work, over drinks neither of us should have been buying, we started talking about launching a financial planning firm that specialized in helping small business owners. People who didn't have CFOs. Who were growing fast but had no infrastructure. Who needed someone to help them make sense of cash flow, taxes, growth planning. Derek had the sales skills and the client relationships. I had the technical background and the strategy mind. We complemented each other. Or so I thought. We spent 6 months planning. We saved money. We built a business plan. We pitched it to a small group of angel investors and raised $80,000 in seed funding. We called the company Foundation Financial Partners. I handled operations, analysis, client deliverables. Derek handled sales, marketing, client acquisition. We split equity 50-50. We signed an operating agreement that laid out roles, responsibilities, profit distribution. We opened a business bank account. We rented a small office. We launched. The first year was brutal. Long hours. Low pay. Constant stress. But we were growing. We signed 12 clients in year 1. 23 in year 2. By year 3, we were doing almost $900,000 in annual revenue. We hired 2 junior analysts. We moved into a bigger office. We were profitable. I was proud. I thought we'd built something real. I didn't know Derek had been stealing from me since month 4. It started small. He'd reimburse himself for client dinners that never happened. Submit mileage for trips he didn't take. Charge personal expenses to the company card and bury them in vendor invoices. I didn't catch it because I trusted him. Because I was drowning in client work and didn't have time to audit every receipt. Because he handled the bookkeeping software and told me he'd take care of the expense tracking. I was the financial analyst, but I wasn't watching our own books closely enough. That's the part that still stings. I should have known. By year 3, Derek had gotten bolder. He started creating fake vendor accounts. Billing the company for consulting services that didn't exist. Paying invoices to LLCs he'd set up under different names. He'd approve the payments himself, then transfer the money to his personal accounts. He was stealing $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. And I had no idea. I found out by accident. One of our clients mentioned they'd seen Derek at a resort in Cabo. Said it looked like he was having a great time. I hadn't known he'd gone to Cabo. I checked our financial statements. There was a $7,000 charge labeled Q3 Strategy Offsite. We'd never had a strategy offsite. I started digging. I pulled every transaction from the last 3 years. I cross-referenced vendor invoices. I called payment processors. And slowly, methodically, the whole structure came into focus. Derek had stolen $418,000. Over 3 years. From a company that barely cleared $200,000 in profit annually. He'd bled us dry while smiling at investor meetings, while shaking hands with clients, while sitting across from me at our weekly partners meeting and talking about growth projections. I didn't confront him immediately. I called an attorney first. Her name was Simone Wallace. She specialized in business fraud and partnership disputes. I sent her everything. She reviewed it over a weekend and called me Monday morning. She said, "This is theft. Clear, documented, prosecutable theft. You can file a police report. You can sue him civilly. Or you can try to settle privately. But you need to freeze him out of the accounts today." I froze the accounts. Changed the passwords. Locked him out of the banking software. Then I called a partner meeting. Derek walked in like it was any other Tuesday. I slid a folder across the table. I said, "I know what you've been doing. I have 3 years of documentation. You've stolen over $400,000 from this company. I'm giving you one chance to explain before I file a criminal complaint." He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just looked at me with this flat, cold expression and said, "You would have never gotten this far without me. I brought in every client. I built the reputation. You're a spreadsheet monkey. I'm the one who made this company work." I said, "You're also the one who stole from it." He said, "I took what I earned." I said, "You took what you stole. There's a difference." He stood up. He said if I pursued this, he'd destroy the company's reputation. He'd tell every client I was unstable. That I'd cooked the books. That I was the one stealing. He said he'd drag me through hell and I'd lose everything. I didn't flinch. I said, "Try it. I have 3 years of forensic evidence. You have a threat. Let's see which one holds up in court." He left. He didn't come back. He didn't return calls. He didn't respond to the demand letter Simone sent. He just vanished. I filed a civil suit. I also filed a police report, but the district attorney said white-collar cases were hard to prosecute unless the amount was massive or the defendant had priors. 400,000 wasn't enough to prioritize. So I focused on the civil case. It took 14 months. Derek's attorney argued that the expenses were legitimate. That I'd approved them. That this was a partnership dispute, not theft. Simone tore that argument apart. She showed the fake vendor accounts. The falsified invoices. The LLCs registered in Derek's name. She showed that I'd never approved any of it. That I'd been systematically deceived. The judge ruled in my favor. Ordered Derek to pay full restitution plus interest and legal fees. Total, $547,000. Derek appealed. The appeal was denied. He was ordered to pay. He never did. He filed for bankruptcy 6 months later. I got nothing. The company survived, barely. I lost one of our junior analysts who didn't want to work somewhere unstable. I lost 3 clients who'd been closer to Derek than to me. I lost the investors who pulled out after the lawsuit became public. I kept the company alive for another year. Then I made a decision. I shut it down. Not because it failed. Because I didn't want to rebuild something that had been poisoned. I wanted to start over. Completely. I spent 6 months freelancing. Doing contract financial planning for small firms. I saved money. I rebuilt my reputation one referral at a time. And then I started a new company. I called it Cornerstone Advisory Group. I didn't take on a partner. I hired employees. I kept full control. I built slowly. Carefully. I put systems in place. I audited everything. I verified every expense, every invoice, every transfer. I was never going to be blindsided again. Cornerstone grew. In 5 years, we went from just me to a team of 16. We worked with over 100 clients. We cleared $2 million in revenue last year. I got married. Changed my name from Maya Desai to Maya Wolf. I moved to Denver. I rebuilt my life. And I thought I'd never hear Derek's name again. Then last month, my HR manager forwarded me a resume. The candidate had 15 years of client relationship experience. A background in financial services. References from firms I recognized. His name was Derek Brennan. I stared at that resume for a long time. I checked the email. It was him. Same employment history. Same certifications. He'd applied for a senior account manager role. He had no idea I was the CEO. He'd seen Maya Wolf on the website and didn't make the connection. Or maybe he thought I'd disappeared. That I'd given up. That I was still buried under the weight of what he'd done. I wasn't. I was the person deciding whether to interview him. Before we get into this, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know where you are right now. I didn't tell my HR manager who he was. Not yet. I wanted to see if he'd show up. If he'd actually walk into my building, sit in my conference room, and try to sell me on why I should hire him. I scheduled the interview. I didn't put my name on the calendar invite. I had my HR manager listed as leadership team interview. Derek confirmed. The interview was set for the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. I didn't sleep much the night before. Not because I was nervous. Because I was deciding what kind of person I wanted to be in that room. Did I want to humiliate him? Did I want to let him pitch himself and then calmly destroy him? Did I want to pretend I didn't know him and just let him fail on his own? I decided on something else. I decided to let him walk in. Let him sit down. Let him start talking. And then I'd tell him exactly who I was. Tuesday came. I got to the office early. I told my HR manager I'd be conducting the interview personally. She looked surprised but didn't ask questions. At 1:58 p.m., Derek walked into the building. I watched him on the lobby security monitor. He looked older. Thinner. His suit was cheaper than the ones he used to wear. But he still had that same confident walk. That same smile he used to use on clients. He checked in at the front desk. The receptionist called me. I said send him up. He walked into the conference room. I was standing by the window, back turned. He said, "Hi, I'm Derek Brennan. I'm here for the senior account manager interview." I turned around. His face went white. He froze. For 5 full seconds, neither of us said anything. Then I smiled. I said, "Hello, Derek. Please, have a seat." He didn't sit. He just stood there, staring at me like I was a ghost. I said, "You applied to work here. I'm the CEO. So let's talk about your qualifications." He opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. He said, "Maya." I didn't know." I said, "You didn't know this was my company." "I'm aware. But now you do. So. Let's conduct the interview. Unless you'd like to withdraw your application." He looked at the door. Looked back at me. He said, "I didn't think I'd ever see you again." I said, "I'm sure you didn't." "Sit down, Derek." He sat. Slowly. Like the chair might collapse under him. I opened his resume. I said, "It says here you have 15 years of experience in client relationship management. That's impressive. Can you tell me about a time you handled a difficult client situation?" He didn't answer. I said, "No?" "Let me ask a different question. Can you tell me about a time you were held accountable for a mistake?" His jaw tightened. He said, "Maya, I know what I did. I know I held up a hand." I said, "This is a job interview, Derek. Not a therapy session. I'm asking you a standard behavioral question. Please answer it." He stared at me. Then he said, I made mistakes in my last partnership. I took actions I shouldn't have. I've spent the last 7 years trying to rebuild my career. I said, rebuild from what? He said, from a lawsuit. From a professional setback. I said, a professional setback. Is that what we're calling theft now? He flinched. I leaned forward. I said, you stole $418,000 from a company we built together. You lied to clients. You lied to investors. You lied to me. And when I caught you, you threatened to destroy me. So forgive me if I don't see that as a setback. I see it as a pattern. Derek's hands were shaking. He said, I filed for bankruptcy. I lost everything. I've been working contract jobs for 7 years. I'm trying to get back on my feet. I said, and you thought applying here was a good idea? He said, I didn't know it was your company. I said, that's not an answer. You didn't do your research. You didn't look up the leadership team. You didn't care who you were applying to work for as long as they gave you a paycheck. He said nothing. I said, you know what I think? I think you've learned nothing. I think you're still the same person who justifies taking what isn't yours. The same person who blames everyone else when the consequences catch up. He stood up. He said, I don't have to sit here and listen to this. I said, you're right. You don't. You can leave. But before you do, I want you to understand something. I didn't survive what you did to me. I exceeded it. I built something bigger, stronger, and cleaner than anything we ever had together. I did it without you. And I did it despite you. He stared at me. I said, you thought you were the reason Foundation Financial worked. You thought I was just the spreadsheet monkey. But I'm the one still standing. I'm the one running a multimillion-dollar company. And you're the one begging for a job. His face flushed red. He said, you're enjoying this. I said, no. I'm just not pretending anymore. Derek turned toward the door. Then he stopped. He turned back. He said, I'm sorry. For what I did. I was in a bad place financially. I made terrible choices. I justified things I shouldn't have. And I know that doesn't fix anything. But I am sorry. I looked at him for a long time. Then I said, thank you for saying that. But sorry doesn't pay back $400,000. Sorry doesn't undo 3 years of lies. Sorry is just a word you're using because you got caught sitting in my conference room. He said, what do you want from me? I said, nothing. I don't want anything from you, Derek. I wanted you out of my life 7 years ago. And you are. This interview is over. He nodded. He walked to the door. Then he stopped again. He said, for what it's worth, you deserved better than what I did. I said, I know. He left. I sat in that conference room alone for 20 minutes. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel angry. I just felt quiet. Like a chapter I'd been carrying around had finally closed. If you've ever been in a situation where your family refused to hear your side, drop a fire emoji in the comments. And if you think Derek is going to regret this, type karma. My HR manager came in later and asked how the interview went. I said, he's not a fit. She said, should I send a rejection email? I said, no. I'll handle it. I didn't send a rejection email. I didn't need to. Derek knew. I thought about that interview for days afterward. I replayed it. Analyzed it. Wondered if I'd been too harsh. Too cold. If I should have just declined the interview and moved on. But then I realized something. I hadn't been harsh. I'd been honest. I'd told him exactly what he'd done and exactly what it cost. And I'd done it without yelling. Without cruelty. Without losing control. I'd simply held up a mirror. And he didn't like what he saw. That wasn't my responsibility to fix. A week later, I got an email from Derek. It was short. He said he understood why I'd responded the way I did. That he didn't expect forgiveness. That he hoped I was doing well. He said he was leaving the state. Starting over somewhere else. He didn't say where. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. I forwarded the email to Simone, my attorney, just to have it on record. She said, "You handled that perfectly." I said, "I didn't handle anything. I just didn't let him rewrite history." She said, "That's the same thing." I thought about that. Maybe she was right. Maybe the whole point wasn't revenge. It was refusing to let someone else define the narrative. Derek had tried to make me the villain 7 years ago. He'd tried to paint himself as the valuable partner and me as the paranoid accuser. He'd failed. And when he walked into my office, he tried to paint himself as the reformed candidate and me as the company that should give him a second chance. He failed again. Because I didn't owe him a second chance. I owed him nothing. I have to pause here. What do you think Derek did next? Option A, he tried to sue for discrimination. Option B, he contacted former clients to damage my reputation. Option C, he disappeared and never contacted me again. Drop your answer in the comments. Derek disappeared. I never heard from him again. No lawsuits. No angry emails. No attempts to sabotage my company. He just vanished. And I moved on. Cornerstone continued to grow. We signed 18 new clients in the 6 months after that interview. We expanded into 2 new states. I promoted 3 people internally. We're on track to hit $3 million in revenue this year. I don't think about Derek often. But when I do, I don't think about the theft. I think about the fact that he walked into my building and didn't even know who I'd become. He still saw me as the 25-year-old analyst who needed him. Who couldn't build anything without his sales skills and client charm. He didn't see the CEO. The team leader. The woman who rebuilt everything he tried to destroy. That's the part that matters. Not the money. Not the apology. The fact that I became someone he didn't recognize. Someone he couldn't touch. I told my team about Derek eventually. Not right away. But months later, during a leadership offsite, we were talking about company values. About integrity. About what it means to build something that lasts. I told them the story. Not for sympathy. But because I wanted them to understand why I audit every expense. Why I verify every contract. Why I'm meticulous about financial controls. I said, I'm not paranoid. I'm just someone who learned that trust without systems is hope. And hope is not a strategy. One of my senior managers said, "Did you ever get the money back?" I said, "No." He declared bankruptcy. I got nothing. She said, "That must have killed you." I said, "It didn't." Because I realized the money wasn't the point. The point was that I didn't let him stop me. Another manager said, "Do you regret not hiring him just to fire him later?" I laughed. I said, "No." Because that would have made it about him. It was never about him. It was about me protecting what I built. They understood. And I think that conversation did more for our team culture than any mission statement ever could. Because they saw that I wasn't just talking about values. I'd lived them. I'd enforced them. Even when it cost me. Even when it would have been easier to look the away. People ask me sometimes if I'd do anything differently. If I'd catch the theft earlier. If I'd structure the partnership differently. If I'd avoid going into business with someone like Derek entirely. And the answer is, I don't know. Because if I'd caught it earlier, maybe I wouldn't have learned how to rebuild. If I'd structured it differently, maybe I wouldn't have learned what real accountability looks like. If I'd never partnered with Derek, I might still think that trust and contracts are enough. They're not. Character is what matters. And character reveals itself under pressure. Derek's character revealed itself when he had access to money and no oversight. Mine revealed itself when I had nothing and every reason to quit. I didn't quit. I rebuilt. And that's the story I tell now. Not the betrayal. The rebuilding. Because betrayal is what someone does to you. Rebuilding is what you do for yourself. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because the next part of the story is where everything comes crashing down. I run Cornerstone differently than I ran Foundation. I don't have partners. I have employees. People I pay well. People I trust. But people who operate within systems. Within structures. Within audits and checks and balances. Some people say that's cynical. I say it's realistic. I'm not running a company based on hope. I'm running it based on evidence. And the evidence says that people are human. They make mistakes. They rationalize bad choices. They take shortcuts when no one's watching. My job is to build a company where those mistakes get caught early. Where shortcuts aren't possible. Where integrity isn't optional. That's not cynicism. That's architecture. I learned that from Derek. He taught me that good intentions don't protect you. Systems do. I also learned that closure doesn't come from apologies. It comes from moving forward. Derek apologized in that conference room. And it changed nothing. Because an apology without restitution is just words. And I didn't need his words. I needed my money back. I didn't get it. But I got something better. I got proof that I didn't need him. That I never did. I got to sit across from the man who tried to destroy me and show him exactly how little power he had left. That's not revenge. That's just truth. And truth, it turns out, is more satisfying than anything I could have done to him. I let Derek walk out of my building that day. I didn't call security. I didn't humiliate him in front of my staff. I just let him leave. With the full weight of his choices sitting on his shoulders. That was enough. I don't forgive Derek. I don't hate him either. I just don't think about him. He's a case study now. A lesson I teach. A story I tell when someone asks me why I'm so careful with contracts. Why I verify everything. Why I don't do partnerships. He's useful in that way. But he's not a person in my life anymore. He's a memory. A scar. A reminder of what happens when you trust the wrong person with the wrong access at the wrong time. I don't regret the partnership. I regret not catching it sooner. But I don't regret the experience. Because it made me the kind of CEO who doesn't miss things. Who doesn't assume. Who doesn't let loyalty override evidence. I run a tight ship. My team knows it. My clients know it. And it works. We have zero financial discrepancies. Zero missing funds. Zero unexplained expenses. Not because everyone here is a saint. But because the systems don't allow anything else. That's Derek's legacy. He taught me how to build a company he could never steal from. And I did. I think about the investors sometimes. The ones who pulled out after the lawsuit. The ones who thought I was too risky. Too dramatic. Too young to recover. I wonder if they know how wrong they were. I don't need them to know. I don't need validation from people who abandoned me when things got hard. I just need to keep building. Keep growing. Keep proving that resilience isn't about avoiding damage. It's about what you do after. I got damaged. I got betrayed. I got robbed. And I didn't let it define me. I let it refine me. There's a difference. One makes you a victim. The other makes you a strategist. I chose strategist. Last year, I spoke at a conference for women entrepreneurs. Someone asked me what my biggest failure was. I said, trusting my business partner without auditing the books. She said, "What did you learn?" I said, that trust is not a financial control. And that the people who deserve your trust will never ask you to skip verification. The room went quiet. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone did. Not because I said something profound. Because I said something true. And truth, in a room full of people who've been lied to, is the most valuable thing you can offer. I don't tell the Derek story for sympathy. I tell it for pattern recognition. So that someone else in that room doesn't make the same mistake I did. So that someone else asks for the receipts. Checks the accounts. Audits the partner. And catches it before it's $400,000. Derek didn't ruin me. He inconvenienced me. He cost me time and money and energy. But he didn't stop me. And that's the part one want people to understand. Betrayal is painful. But it's not fatal. Not if you refuse to let it be. I refused. I got up. I hired an attorney. I filed the lawsuit. I shut down the company. I started over. I built something better. And now, 7 years later, I'm the person Derek applied to work for. That's not karma. That's just compound interest. I invested in myself when no one else would. And it paid off. I still have the resume he sent. I keep it in a folder labeled evidence of growth. Not his growth. Mine. Because the fact that he applied to work for me means I built something visible. Something credible. Something worth applying to. He didn't see my name and run. He saw my company and wanted in. That's the win. Not the interview. Not the rejection. The fact that I built something he wanted to be part of. Something he no longer had access to. I didn't take that away from him. He gave it away. When he stole. When he lied. When he chose $400,000 over integrity. That was his choice. And choices have consequences. I don't wish him well. I don't wish him harm. I just don't wish him anything. He's irrelevant to my life now. Completely. And that's the most powerful position I've ever been in. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I'm not waiting for him to fail. I'm just building. Growing. Leading. Winning. And he's not part of any of it. That's closure. Not an apology. Not restitution. Just total and complete irrelevance. Derek had one chance to be part of something great. He blew it. I had one chance to let betrayal destroy me. I didn't take it. And that's the difference between us. He took the easy road and lost everything. I took the hard road and built everything. I know which one I'd choose again. I tell young entrepreneurs now, pick your partners like you're picking a surgeon. Because they're going to have their hands inside your business. Inside your finances. Inside your future. And if they're not trustworthy, they won't just fail you. They'll gut you. Derek gutted me. But I didn't bleed out. I stitched myself up. And I came back stronger. That's not a metaphor. That's just what happened. I didn't have a choice about the betrayal. But I had a choice about the response. And I chose to survive. Then I chose to rebuild. Then I chose to thrive. Those were 3 separate choices. And I made all of them. Derek made his choices too. And now he's somewhere else. Starting over. Again. While I'm here. Still standing. Still building. Still winning. The last thing I'll say about Derek is this: he thought he was smarter than me. He thought I wouldn't notice. Wouldn't check. Wouldn't fight back. He was wrong on all 3 counts. And that miscalculation cost him everything. I didn't outsmart him. I just didn't quit. And in the long run, persistence beats intelligence. Every time. I'm not the smartest CEO. I'm not the most charismatic. I'm not the best funded. But I'm the one who shows up. Every day. With systems. With discipline. With clarity. And that's why I'm still here. Derek's not. He burned out. Burned bridges. Burned through every second chance he probably got after me. And now he's a cautionary tale. A name I use in workshops. A resume I keep in a folder. Nothing more. I don't celebrate that. I just accept it. Because the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And I'm completely indifferent to Derek Brennan. He's a stranger who once had access to my business. He abused it. I removed him. End of story. The story that matters is what I built after. Cornerstone Advisory Group. 16 employees. 100+ clients. 3 million in revenue. 0 embezzlement. 0 fraud. 0 partnerships. That's my legacy. Not what Derek did. What I did after. I got married 3 years ago. My husband knows the whole Derek story. He asked me once if I'd ever forgive him. I said, forgive him for what? For showing me exactly who he was? I'm grateful for that. My husband said, you're grateful he stole from you? I said, no. I'm grateful I found out. Imagine if I hadn't. Imagine if he'd stayed in the business. If we'd scaled. If we'd taken on debt. He would have destroyed everything. Instead, he showed me who he was when the stakes were still manageable. That's a gift. My husband looked at me like I was insane. But I meant it. Derek's betrayal was terrible. But it was also contained. It happened early enough that I could recover. If it had happened 5 years later, with 10 times the revenue and 50 employees, I might not have survived it. So in a strange way, the timing saved me. I don't forgive Derek. But I don't curse him either. I just moved on. And moving on, it turns out, is the best revenge. Because it means you're no longer defined by what they did. You're defined by what you did next. I chose to build. And I'm still building. That's my story. Not his. People ask me if I ever looked Derek up after the interview. If I checked to see where he went. What he's doing now. I didn't. I don't care. His life is his problem. Mine is my priority. And my life is full. I have a company I'm proud of. A team I trust. Clients who respect me. A husband who loves me. A home in a city I chose. I have everything I wanted when I was 25 and starting Foundation Financial. Except a partner. And I don't miss that. I don't miss splitting decisions. I don't miss compromise. I don't miss wondering if the person across the table is being honest. I run my company alone. And it's the best decision I ever made. Because I know every number. Every contract. Every expense. Every risk. I'm not guessing. I'm not trusting. I'm knowing. And knowledge is the only foundation that doesn't crack. Derek taught me that. He taught me that people lie. That contracts aren't enough. That good intentions don't equal good behavior. He taught me to verify. To audit. To trust systems more than people. Those are hard lessons. But they're valuable ones. And I use them every single day. So in the end, Derek didn't ruin me. He educated me. And I took that education and built an empire he'll never touch. That's not revenge. That's just return on investment.